Hello and welcome everyone to the part one of Agile Transformation, the three-part series webinars. I would like to introduce you to the speaker today. Our speaker is Mr. Jay Singhal, who holds several years of IT background. He is an author for several books, including Future of Scrum and Solving Problems. Jay Singhal is an enterprise agile coach and trainer as well. Over on to Jay to start the webinar.
Thank you, Kim. So today we are actually going to look at agile mindset. It's the way agile frameworks and methodologies, they are becoming so prevalent in the industry, especially in software development, and how they are making substantial change. So again, this is Jay Singhal taking you to your ride through the first webinar as part of the three-part series. And let's look at what are the learning objectives today. So learning objectives today is we are looking to make sure that the participants gain an initial understanding of Agile. So by the end of this webinar, the participants will be able to understand and define what Agile is. So basically, we'll cover some definition for you to help understand it. Describe the Agile Manifesto and its 12 supporting principles. We look at what are the benefits of each of these principles and how they support Agile Manifesto. Also, we'll look at three prevalent Agile frameworks and methodologies that are making changes and have been there. Say, for example, Scrum has been there for over 2 decades now, and yet very few organizations have really understood how to implement it correctly. Also, we'll look at differentiation between them and how they compare to each other, and also looking at the traditional way. So how does the waterfall method compare to the agile mindset? We'll also look at some benefits of agile software development, and these benefits, to make a comparison, we'll again take the traditional approach. We'll cover some of the Scrum and XP practices, and this will be elaborated further in the part 2. So let's roll on. What is Agile? Now, if somebody says what is Agile, the first thing that you might think of is something that's flexible. It's definitely not Renegade, because Renegade, though flexible, is uncontrolled and can lead to chaos. So Agile is an approach, and there are different definitions given. PMI defines Agile as that Agile is a philosophy that uses organization models based on people, collaboration, and shared values. So they are looking at it as a philosophy. It's a way of thinking. It's the way you approach domain. Agile uses rolling wave planning. So it's identifying what does it use. So again, it's not rolling wave planning. It uses rolling wave planning. Iterative and incremental delivery. So it leads to iterative and incremental delivery. Now, what does iterative mean? Iterative basically refers to the software is delivered in small iterations. Scrum says 1 month or less. XP is more aggressive and can even have weekly, iterations. So a week-long iterations, at the end of every iteration, something is given out. Then what is incremental delivery? Incremental delivery is that the product is adding features on top of each other. So it's containing all the functionality it had in the previous iteration plus more that has been delivered in the current iteration. Rapid and flexible response to change. So again, what does rapid mean? Rapid is again referring to the iterative way and how flexible we are. Even late in the software development, the flexibility is there to be able to respond to change. And this change can come from various factors. It can come from the industry, it can come from the trend, it can come from the market demand, it can come from the technology. So a lot of factors that can lead to changes. And Agile promotes a quick, rapid response and be able to change proactively. And open communication between teams. Again, it's great on communications, directly accessing stakeholders and customers. So again, the communication channels are also managed, as well as they are very much engaged to ensure quality delivery, value delivery to the end users. There are many approaches to Agile that adhere to these tenets, such as Scrum, Extreme Programming, XP, Lean, Kanban, and test-driven development. Although agile principles have their roots in the software and IT industries, agile adoption is growing and expanding in a wide range of industries, including healthcare, marketing, and manufacturing. It has also become very much prevalent in education. Means many of the teachers, you would be surprised, and instructors, they use agile methodologies in the way they teach, in the way they carry out different instruction sessions. And even this particular webinar was created and is being executed as part of the same strategy. We actually looked at how we can be more agile to meeting various demands, as we got various people asking about how do you implement agile, what do you really mean by agile, what is agile. So PMI definition is a pretty comprehensive way of understanding what agile is. We also have our own definition that goes above and beyond what PMI definition is. We look at agile in software development. So again, our focus here in software development perspective only. We also have its other applications in other disciplines. In software development, we look at it as a mindset for developing products using time boxes with PDCA cycle. Now you would say, what is PDCA cycle? Plan, do, check, act. It's also known as Deming cycle because Deming popularized it in Toyota manufacturing system. And this is used to deliver the optimum value to customer at the end of each short iteration and adapt to feedback so for continuous improvement, Kaizen. So Kaizen culture is a very proactive way of continuously improving, relentless improvement uh, to the product, to the process, and for the people. So product, process, and people, instead of delivering entire value after a long period of development. So unlike the traditional way, or even in iterative cycles, sometimes they are quarterly releases. And that's a long duration where a lot could change, and delivering is full of risks. So again, we'll look at some of those aspects. So based on our definition, we are focusing on plan to check X cycle. Now you would say, wait a minute, waterfall also works on plan to check X cycle, right? The traditional project management is also looking at plan to check X cycle or timing cycle. So there is a difference. There is a difference that is not flexible to change. It's not, uh, proactively seeking feedback. The lessons learned are at the end of the session, and they're never used. So it's full of documentation. So then we'll be looking at all those various questions as we go along to the next set of slides. Now, Agile, what it is not is important to understand. It is not a methodology. Agile is not a framework as well. It is not a perspective. It is a mindset, a philosophy, as was said in the PMI definition. There are various methodologies and frameworks that are Agile. For example, we have Scrum framework, we have XP methodologies, we have Kanban, Crystal, DSTM, and feature-driven development. So let's look at waterfall versus iterative versus agile, and also we'll look at some of their characteristics, and in addition to that, how the value delivery is taken care in each of those. So waterfall is a traditional phase gate approach where development goes through everything is top priority. You get a big set of documents that are analyzed, and this document after analysis goes to design, where the designer is designing the various UMLs, various components, and so forth at a high level. And then he pushes it onto the development team. And then the development team is looking at what is the design, what are the requirements and analysis, and try to develop the code and the whole system as such. After they complete, they throw it over to testing team, and the testing team test, and then fix anything. Development goes and fixes anything that the testing team has identified as a bug in the application, and provided it meets the exit criteria, it's moved over to deployment, where the production environment is where the application is deployed. And now after it has been deployed, the basic component is maintenance cycle. So that's waterfall. Sometimes it can range into years. There's been so many examples in the history. This is how it has been done all the time. Now what happened? Since 1985 onwards, iterative became the way of delivery. Prototyping came into being. People were doing parallel, analysis, design, development, testing. Rational unified process made a big change So again, they were shorter release cycles. Yet these release cycles were from 3 months to 6 months, still long, but much shorter than waterfall. And the product was, sent out in increments. And this development gained importance as the customer feedback was actually captured and is being incorporated. The market demands were being closely looked at. What Agile did is that even the 3 to 6 month duration was not small enough to be able to proactively change. So responding to change was still little. There was contract negotiations being heavy, collaboration was rare. Even between the teams, there were silos still created where the team would not cross over. RUP was a very descriptive framework, and it assumed that the organization had the maturity of the processes, people, and tools to be able to implement it. So it was very process driven and became a big animal on its own. So Agile actually seems to address a lot of those issues as well. So there are different methodologies and frameworks they came along, showing that they were Agile. So these frameworks and methodologies were already being practiced for a long time before Agile Manifesto was written. So Manifesto is a way of identifying that these are the basic aspects that Agile framework or an Agile methodology must conform to. And there are 12 supporting principles. So it's focused on value. Again, Agile is very much driven towards customer, the stakeholder. They are the important factors. ROI is optimized. The customer focus and overall success of the project is optimized. And it's been gaining popularity since Scrum had been introduced. So for last 2 decades, Scrum has been there over 2 decades. So value-driven comparison. So let's look at what waterfall does. Means waterfall goes through for months and years actually, and at the end there is a release of product. So it's expecting. So what's showing is that is expecting after a long period of development, analysis, design, testing, it delivers to the market and is hoping that it will gain and make deliver great value at that particular time. What has happened in this time? A lot of things have happened. The customer demands have changed. The market has changed. The technology has changed. People have moved around and so forth. So again, a lot of changes, a lot of risk accumulates in this duration. So all those changes are not easily incorporated. While at iterative development, it actually came along and made substantial changes, yet still it was 3 to 6 months later that there would be a release and it would start delivering value to the customer, but then they would have to wait for another 3 to 6 months. And what happens in software industry is uh, technology changes within 3 to 6 months. So again, there is always new products, new technology, new way of thinking, new demands from the customer and the market. Those factors seem to directly impact even iterative development. And so agile development came into being where it is looking at very short iterations. Scrum goes with 30 days or less, month or less. XP very aggressively looks for week uh, long iterations. And then we have Kanban, which works on cadence. It doesn't work on time boxes. So again, there are different aspects. And what happens is from the very beginning, you start looking at value. And this value continues to really deliver high value early, and customer feedback ensures that you are aligned with the market, you are aligned with the technology, you are aligned with what the end user is seeking as value. So again, the focus shifts from development to suddenly go towards customer and stakeholders perspective. So as agile frameworks and methodologies they were being developed and being used, there were 17 you know leaders in software development. They gathered together as how they have been implementing. In 2001 in Snowbird, Utah, they gathered in February and they discussed as what is agile in software development. And this is what they came up with, Agile Manifesto. They identified that, I'm just gonna identify from the slide, that we are covering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value. So again, now there is some value they are identifying. But this is where they are not just saying we are part of management. They have themselves performed development. they have themselves seen the projects deliver great value using these value comparisons. So again, individuals and interactions over process and tools. What does it mean? It's very important to understand that the software is developed and delivered by the individuals, and the communication and interactions among those individuals is an essential part. It is more effective, more value given than process and tools. Of course, process and tools help us. So we can use process and tools to help us deliver the product, yet at the same time, it has to be developed by individuals. And it is very important to have collaborative interactions between those individuals and their positive interactions to make this effort of delivering the end value. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Comprehensive documentation is a documentation which does not deliver value to the end user. It may be required during the software development process. So again, uh, those documentations are important for individuals to be able to communicate to each other what is being developed and how it is being developed. Yet at the same time, the end value is in the focus. And working software is what the end user values. So working software is giving more value over comprehensive documentation. It is not to say that the user guides are not important. It is not to say that the administration guides are not important. So all those factors, frequently asked question listing is not important. So again, those things are really important. It is not to say that you ignore all those factors. It is important to identify that working software is necessary. It is important, more important than all the other documentation. And that documentation can go on to support the working software in delivering value. Again, there are different aspects like fit for purpose and fit for use also coming. And again, we can look from fit for purpose perspective that the working software should meet the need of the end user. It should be able to meet the functionality that they're looking for to be able to achieve their end target, their end goal. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Again, it is very important to have customer collaboration. Agile framework methodologies are very much promoting on-site customer, co-located customer, and this is just to improve collaboration, to reduce the various waste that occurs due to motion, various waste that occurs due to waiting, and so forth. And contract negotiation is important. It is important to have a contract in place because that way there is a legal binding on either side of the parties to make sure that they follow through with what they have agreed upon. Yet at the same time, customer collaboration also enables quick response to change. And to be able to respond to change, Agile provides some of those ways where change for free aspects are there and so forth. Responding to change over following a plan. It is not to say that the planning is not important. Planning is very important. Yet at the same time, the team should be able to respond to change even late in development. So how do you make that happen? You have to make that happen so that you are not doing a rework. Of course, you want to be able to deliver to the customer proactively in a manner that what the customer needs. So it is important to be able to change and realign yourself. How do you realign yourself? You immediately pick up, a small piece of software that you have developed, deliver it to the customer, and then in each iteration or in a cadence or in a time box, you deliver something to the customer, and then you look for a quick feedback. And as the customer feedback comes, you look at that feedback and realign yourself with the market demand. So further, based on these four value comparisons, they have identified that is where there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So clearly identifying here that there is value in the items on the right, yet at the same time more value is given, more importance is given to the items on the left. Let's look at some of these leaders in the industry who met in 2001 at Snowbird, Utah. Kent Back, he had been very active in extreme programming, so he represented that. Mike Beadle, again Scrum. Eddie Van Benningham, DSTM. Alistair Cowan, Crystal. Ward Cunningham from Extreme Programming. Martin Fowler, he was all over the place, I would say. James Grinning and Jim Highsmith, ESD. Andrew Hunt, Ron Jeffries, XP. John Kern, FDD. Brian Merrick, Robert C. Martin, XP, Steve Miller, Ken Schwaber, Scrum, Jeff Sutherland, Scrum, Dave Thomas. So what's the significance of Agile Manifesto? Let's look at 5 major factors. First is, of course, there are 4 value pairs given, and it provides a value comparison. The right side items that we saw in that particular value uh, metrics were basically looking at what was the traditional way of software development, and they identified new, actually 4 values that have become prevalent in agile methodology. If you let's go back and revisit that. Traditionally, what we have been looking at, all organizations, enterprises, they had been focusing so much on process and tools, and they have been focused on comprehensive documentation. We are all aware of so many projects where the documentation weight was on and how much document has been produced was a criteria of saying how much work has been accomplished. The lines of code, were used to derive function points. Contract negotiations, everything was based on contracts. It was a legal dealing between vendor and client. Everything has to be extensively planned in the very beginning with extensive Microsoft project-based project plan with Gantt charts and resource utilization at 100%. So those were the ways. And what Agile has introduced is it has introduced change in the criteria, change in the importance of how we look at things, and focusing on individuals, working software, customer collaboration, responding to change. So those are Agile Manifesto compares 4 value pairs. That's the second aspect. And it gives us the comparison with identifying which one is of more value. So low value does not mean that there is no value whatsoever. It clearly identifies that, of course, they look at the value that the items on the right, they have some value. Yet the items on the left have more value. So it's more of a weighing which one should you consider more. All agile frameworks and methods, they must support Agile Manifesto in its principles. So this is a way of saying that the frameworks and methodologies that have been evolving, they must meet Agile Manifesto and its principles. Agile Lean is like coming into picture now, even though everything started from Toyota manufacturing based principles and how it was done at Toyota manufacturing plants. So there is a lot of root of Scrum, a lot of root of Kanban from Japanese Toyota manufacturing. Agile Manifesto is written with the developer in mind. So again, there is no management aspect. It's very much looking from a developer perspective for software development. Now there are 12 principles that support Agile Manifesto. So let's look at each of these principles behind Agile Manifesto. So our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So what's the highest priority? Highest priority is not just to have a good contract, not just to seek just satisfy customer with whatever demands. It is actually satisfying the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Again, value is paramount. Delivery is paramount. It has to be continuous. So those are the aspects we are looking at to satisfy the customer. And second one basically identifies welcoming changing requirements, even late in development. So again, this is where responding to change over following the plan comes into play. It's always good to have a planning, but then if you have a plan for a long duration, it is very difficult to be able to respond to change. So agile software development, it welcomes changing requirements to be able to realign what is of real value to the customer so that the customer is able to take advantage of using that particular software. So again, even late in development, agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Agile seeks to not deliver customer something that's outdated. It wants to deliver something that the customer values at the time it is delivering. So as the customer sees the change in the market trend, change in technology, change in user demand, agile processes, they harness that change. They seek that feedback to be able to adapt quickly and then deliver something that's of optimal value. Third is deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter time scale. Again, Agile seeks to make sure that working software, that's the essential aspect, not the comprehensive documentation. Now, when do you deliver it? You want to deliver it frequently so that you can keep aligning yourself. And the duration is identified that it can be from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. So if you do have to err, you can err on the lower side, because XP is pretty extreme approach, like extreme programming itself, like the name suggests, and takes sometimes even a week-long iterations, and we have seen that to be very effective when there is a lot of changes, high demand, time-critical factors involved. XP teams, they deliver even at a weekly level, and frequent delivery of software allow them to kind of like get early feedback, quickly adapt, and continue to deliver in the next iteration and so forth. Principle 4 is essential because individuals and interactions was identified as a higher value than process and tools. So business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. So this is identifying where the business people and developers, they're working together. They are working together at what frequency, not at the end of each release. They're working together on a daily basis throughout the project. So it is a continuous and regular interaction with the business people. And this is where Scrum and XP both seek to have co-located on-site customers. Scrum has product owner who's actually representing the customers. And this is to ensure that the developers are able to get all the information they need to be able to implement it effectively and efficiently. And beside that, be able to deliver highest value, optimal value to the customer. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. So building the projects around motivated individuals is because self-motivation is a great boost to any software development shop. And as we have learned from Daniel H. Pink in his Drive, in his book, he has identified that motivation, money is not a motivator, first of all, especially in software development, where it's complex domain. It is a motivator where, things are pretty rudimentary and so forth, but in software development is pretty complex scenario, complex domain. So in software development, in a complex domain where it requires even a little cognitive skills, analytical skills, money does not stay as a good motivator. Rather, people are motivated by purpose. They are more driven by mastery, and they are driven by autonomy. So those are the factors. The most efficient, effective way of conveying information to and within a software development team is face-to-face conversation. So again, here face-to-face conversation is given paramount because it is more effective and efficient way of conveying information. Principle 7, it talks about working software is the primary measure of progress. So the measure of progress is not how much you have done in designing, how much tests have you completed. Yes, they are good metrics. They provide good insight. But at the end, it is the working software which is the primary measure of progress, because it is only the working software that delivers value to the customer. Principle 8 talks about agile processes. They promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, users, they should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. So this is about a human approach. The processes, they promote sustainable pace. They are seeking to make sure that individuals and interactions are well maintained and great relationships are achieved as part of software development. And that the sponsors, developers, and users. So again, it's talking about the sponsors, it's talking about the sponsoring organizations and so forth, talking about the developers, the people who are producing the software, the people who are developing the software, and then the users, the end users who are able to use that software to achieve their target goal. They should be able to maintain a constant pace. They should be able to work at a constant pace indefinitely. You definitely don't want these individuals to burn their weekends, burn their holidays, and late nights. You definitely want to have a human approach, something that is sustainable indefinitely. So again, at a constant pace. Again, those are the important aspects that Agile introduces. It brings a balance to life and work. Principle 9 talks about continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. So again, it is not that you come after some time and then look at what is it that you have to develop. You need to have a constant understanding of the context you are in. And by continuous attention, you will be able to achieve that context, be able to live within the context to achieve the technical excellence and be able to design well and introduce agility to have sufficient options to be able to quickly adapt to the changing requirements. So it's very important to have continuous attention to technical excellence and good design that enhances agility. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. So it is, simplicity is essential. And how do you achieve simplicity? Is to remove by removing waste. To identify things that are not required to get the work done. So it's a maximizing the amount of work not done. So this is very much in line with the lean principles, the 7 type of ways that it looks at, and also looks at the system as a whole to identify what is the minimum that you have to build, what is the minimum thing that you have to do to be able to deliver value. XP has many practices in that particular mindset. Trust-driven development actually seeks, like, okay, the test cases are developed based on the acceptance criteria, and then those acceptance tests uh, are what used by the developers so that they design just enough, they code just enough to meet and pass those tests. So that's simplicity. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. So this is 11th principle. Like, it is the self-organizing teams, and autonomy is paramount here. So the self-organizing teams, when they work and look at what is of value and understanding what are the capabilities, they look at and identify the best architectures, requirements, and designs. So these to emerge that sense of excellence in these areas, the team should be able to self-organize their work to be able to uh, you know attain autonomy. And of course, we do have many agile games that we play during our training sessions in the classroom environment, where people are actually able to see how this is achieved. Now, principle 12, last but not the least, at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Jeff Sutherland calls this inspect and adapt cycle. So at a regular interval, the team stops doing what they are doing and they look at what is it that they are building and how effective they are in building that, and then they further tune and adjust. So again, you can look at what aspect and how aspect. What refers to the product that has been delivered, the software, working software that is being delivered to the customer. They tune that to the market needs, and also they tune their processes, people, and behavior to and adjust accordingly to be able to realign themselves, to be able to accelerate at a faster pace than what they have been doing, to be able to identify and remove waste in the system, to be able to support each other in delivering maximum value, to be able to collaborate with the customer more, to be able to seek that feedback and understand what is the customer expecting of highest value for the next iteration. So from various aspects, it's very important to just stop everything at a regular interval. The team reflects, okay, looks at what it's building, how much value it's delivering, and how it can build faster, how it can gain more speed. And this normally happens at the end of every delivery. So at the end of iteration, at the end of a sprint in Scrum, and iteration in XP, as well as at the end of cadence in Kanban, the team looks at how it can become more effective in delivering and attaining optimal value, and how fast it can deliver the working software to the customer. So let's look at the significance of agile practices. Now we like to look at it from cause and effect. So it's very easy to understand that early and continuous delivery of value, that would be the most satisfying factor for the customer. The second principle identifies welcoming change, even late in development. So that is there so that the customer's competitive advantage is attained. Third principle is talking about deliver early and frequently. So again, working software should be delivered early and frequently. And the effect is working software that's of high value to the customer. Business people and developers must work daily. Fourth principle. It promotes daily collaboration to stay aligned with what the user really wants, and again focus on higher value. Fifth principle, give support. The cause is give support and environment to motivated individuals. And the more they are given that support and environment, they are motivated themselves to deliver what is needed. So you can trust them to get the work done. So you don't have to do micromanagement. You don't have to be like looking through every part of the plan to see how the team is doing. You can let the team go at their own pace and let them work and focus on delivering the value. You just need to make sure that they are aligned with purpose, autonomy, and mastery, and are motivated, staying motivated. So as a leader, as a manager, you are looking at keeping the team motivated, keeping the team well aligned with the vision in mind, with the end goal in mind. Principle 6 talks about face-to-face conversation. Face-to-face conversation, why? Because its effect is going to be most effective in efficient communication to avoid any related waste due to time lag, waiting, motion, and so forth. Principle 7 talks about measure of progress. How do you measure progress? Measure progress in Agile is through working software. It is the end result that matters. With the end in mind, the team progresses in the beginning of a sprint or an iteration. Principle 8 talks about what's the cause. Cause is constant pace indefinitely. What does it do? Means again, staying at a constant pace indefinitely for a long time from a sustainable development. Your team stays motivated while continuing to do development at a constant pace. Principle 9 talks about technical excellence and good design. What does it do? Means the technical excellence and good design, it enhances agility. It enhances the ability to be able to realign yourself with the market demand, take the feedback and quickly adapt to what the value is at that moment in time. Principle 10 talks about maximizing the amount of work not done. So again, that is to reduce any waste in the system to attain simplicity. And simplicity also helps you deliver quickly. It's a proactive way of thinking and delivering quickly so that you know what's of value that you are delivering and how fast you are delivering. It helps you deliver faster. It helps you deliver before the market changes and makes you attain higher value in the time. Self-organizing teams. So again, what do self-organizing teams lead to? A self-organizing team leads to best architectures, requirements, and designs. So again, these are the cause and effects. The cause for the fourth one is retrospect. At a regular interval, the team looks at how to be more effective, how to tune its processes and products, and how to adjust its various behaviors. And what does it lead to? It leads to effective and efficient software development. So those are the significance of agile principles given in cause and effect manner. So let's look at some of the agile frameworks and methodology. So this is a Scrum framework overview. It's been taken out from the Scrum guide. So again, there's a lot of reference to the Scrum guide, and also this same topic has been discussed at length in the recent Scrum book in 2014 by Jeff Sutherland, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half a Day. So what is a Scrum framework? Scrum is defined as a framework within which people can address complex adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. The Scrum Guide by Jeff Sutherland, Ken Schwaber. So it's not a methodology. Scrum is a framework, and it's focused on, complex domain of software development. Scrum has actually now crossed that. It's not just for software development. People are using it for various practices, even in health industry, in teaching, even in building, construction, and so forth. So it's basically identifying Scrum as a framework that can be used to address any complex adaptive problem. We're productive and creatively delivering products. So again, it's looking at what do we know, and basing on that, it is delivering value. In Scrum, there are three pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So the three pillars of Scrum, basically transparency is to make sure everything is visible so that people know what is going on, how much have we achieved, how well are we doing, and so forth. Inspection is to make sure that uh, they are able to look at and also analyze it and then quickly adapt. Adaptation focuses on adjust their pace and so forth. The five values in Scrum are focus. Again, you want to be really concentrated, keep that context, and align yourself with the vision. So the focus is important. Courage is, it takes courage to make yourself transparent, make people see what you're working on all the time. It also takes openness to be able to say, okay, I want to be transparent. I want to be able to, uh, you know, ensure that I can see others and how we can work together. Commitment is essential because everyone is committed to the sprint goal, the iteration goal, and so forth. So you stay committed. The team is committed to achieving the goal identified, the vision for the product identified, and respect. It is not a blame game in agile methodologies, and Scrum is big on that. It respects others for being courageous, for being open and committed. And it says, okay, if we made a mistake in the past, let's understand it, learn from it, and move forward and not repeat it. So hopefully we do not repeat it, but make with an open heart we make that approach. We always take any lag in the past as a way to move forward, and any new experiences, any new learning to boost and continue to deliver highest value. Three elements in Scrum. Scrum team is basically the product owner, the Scrum master, and the development team. The Scrum events, the various Scrum events like sprint itself is a time box, and then events are sprint planning, which is at the beginning of sprint. We have daily stand-ups every day for 15 minutes time boxed, and we have sprint retrospective and sprint review at the end of sprint. Sprint review happens before sprint retrospective. Scrum artifacts. There are various artifacts like the working software itself is an artifact. The burn down chart is another artifact. So there are artifacts that help us. The House of Scrum is adapted from the Scrum or Pocket Guide by Gunther Verheyen. And out here, the goal is the product, and the foundation is transparency. Inspect and adapt are its two pillars. Now, when we look at the three pillars of Scrum, this House of Scrum looks a little out of shape, but let's leave it at that, because it has been also, promoted by the co-creators of Scrum, Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schreiber. So Scrum Framework Overview. The Scrum team has three roles. Scrum Master. What does the Scrum Master do? Make sure that the Scrum process is well managed, facilitates all the Scrum events, and is a servant leader. Product Owner is representing the customer. Product Owner owns the backlog. Backlog is the list of all items, all the work that needs to be done to achieve the product delivery, and they make value decisions on the product, and only a product owner can cancel a sprint. It is very demotivating for the team, and the sprint can only be cancelled if the sprint goal becomes obsolete in nature. So again, sprint goal is what is keeping the team aligned. Every day when the team is coming together, they're looking at that sprint goal. The development team is the third participant in the Scrum team, and they build the done increment. So product increment that is being built, it's based on a definition of done. Every member in the development team is titled developer. These are generalized specialists. They are cross-functional with specialization in the individual stream. So the characteristics of a Scrum team is 7 plus minus 2, so 5 to 9 individuals. If you do have to are on the lower side. Like Scrum Guides even accepts 3 members. As Scrum teams are self-organizing, they are cross-functional. They understand what definition of done means. Everyone in the Scrum team understands that, and they deliver the product iteratively and incrementally. Every sprint, there is a delivery done. So at the end of the sprint, in the sprint review, it is all the work that has been completed is demoed to the stakeholders and the customers, and is delivered. So they are ready to play with that particular increment of product. There's Scrum events. All Scrum events are time boxed. Sprint not more than a month, like I said earlier. Sprint planning, 8 hours for 1 month sprint. Uh, Daily stand-up or daily scrum is 15 minutes for the development team. Sprint review, 4 hours for 1 month sprint. Sprint retrospective is 3 hours for 1 month sprint. So again, these are the time blocks. If the team does effective sprint planning and effective sprint review, retrospective or daily stand-up, they don't have to stay for the whole duration of the time box. However, the maximum duration they can stay is the time box duration. So let's look at some of the characteristics of Scrum events. They are time box, maximum time allowed. They create opportunities to inspect and adapt. And there are specific set of participants for each event. For example, the daily stand-up is where the development team participates and the Scrum Master facilitates the session. And if the stakeholders, they want to come and attend the session, of course, as part of the transparency, the team may allow them to just be a fly on the wall. They cannot participate, they can just be a spectator to the session. So again, looking at further deep dive into Scrum time boxes in a sprint, the input is a product backlog, output is an increment, that means the definition of done. And there are no changes allowed that impact the sprint goal. So again, everything is aligned with the sprint goal. And who prepares the sprint goal? In the beginning to the sprint planning session, again, the input is product backlog, yet at the same time, product owner has an idea what the sprint goal is, and it is finalized as an output after the sprint planning session, the sprint goal and the sprint backlog that the team takes and starts to work on. There are two-part events to sprint planning. In the first part, the product owner explains what the backlog items on the top of the product backlog are, and then the team selects based on its capacity, also known as velocity if it's known to the team, based on its past performance, number of work items it can put in for the sprint backlog. And the second part is where the sprint has started and the team works proactively, discussing and brainstorming how to deliver each of those backlog items based on definition of done. So again, definition of done is also a central aspect around it. Everyone should understand what done means, and each backlog item has its own individual acceptance criteria that needs to be also identified to ensure what level of effort and how much effort and how complex a work item is to get done. Daily stand-up occurs every day where the participants are the development team. Let's look at sprint review next. A sprint review, the participants are the Scrum team and the key stakeholders. Product demo is done to get stakeholders' feedback, the customer feedback, and acceptance is based on the definition of done, which is established in the very beginning during sprint planning. So again, definition of done is the criteria how acceptance is done, and an item is considered done. Sprint retrospective is where the participants are the Scrum team, and the focus is to continuously improve, to remove any impediments, to optimize their processes, and how they can go at a faster pace delivering the incremental product. Let's look at the 3 Scrum artifacts. First is product backlog. It's never complete, it's constantly evolving. The product owner is the owner for the product backlog, and he is making sure that the work items are identified, and each item in the product backlog is referred to as backlog item. So after the sprint planning, the product backlog is looked at. The team chooses the items in the sprint backlog that the product owner agrees to, and the sprint backlog is the output of the sprint planning session. It's owned by the development team and contains items to meet the sprint goal. And at the end of the sprint, an product increment is delivered and is similarly referred to as increment. Extreme programming. So that was about Scrum, and now we are coming over to extreme programming. This XP is a development methodology. So again, there's a difference. XP is a methodology while Scrum is a framework, and XP is specific to software development methodology based on values and practices that the team uses to deliver short increments of product. So that's how XP is identified. It's developed by Ken Beck, Watkin Ingham, Ron Jeffries, and Robert C. Martin. There are 5 values. Some of the values are very similar, like courage, communication, simplicity, feedback, and respect. So feedback is explicitly stated here. And this is to go back to able to respond quickly to change. XP has three roles: the customer, programmer, and manager or coach. You'll see that these roles are very similar to the ones in Scrum. XP uses iterations instead of sprints in Scrum. So again, there's some difference in terminology, but XP covers the practices which is of high value. Again, testing development to attain simplicity, peer programming to attain a greater level of interaction and more effective and efficient communication, refactoring to ensure quality is given. Simple design is again focusing around simplicity. Metaphor to make a complex problem easily understandable using some metaphor that everyone can relate to. Then there is continuous integration. Continuous integration is to ensure that what is being produced is working, it is quality driven. Collective ownership, the whole team owns everything. So again, it's not individual ownership. A strong individual ownership is heavily discouraged. Coding standards to make sure that everyone can go and maintain the software and be able to understand what the software is doing, so that looking at the lines of code they can understand what the logic is to be able to update the logic. So it's not that a developer A has made a module A and no one can go and touch the module A. If there is a need, developer B can go and look at module A, understand what is being done, and as per the required work item or the backlog item, they may very well make changes and updates to that particular module. So again, there's a lot of collaboration. Small releases at the end of every iteration. There's a release done. So something is released, and the whole team is looking at everything. So let's look at the third way, Kanban. Kanban again comes from Toyota Manufacturing System, means signal board. So there are to-do, design, develop, test, done. Kanban is famous because it allows us to use, it allows easy transition for traditional projects with silos and phase gate approach, where you have the different silos and you can work. So in this case, you pick up the top backlog item, the designer can start working on that. Another designer can pick up another backlog item. And as you see here, there are different numbers. 4 identifies that there can be 4 work in progress items. So 4 of the backlog items could be taken in for designing. So at this particular moment, we have 3, 1, 2, and 3. So these 3 are okay because they're below 4. Development team has 2 as the limit, and there's a developer here. Testing team has 2 as a work in progress items, and then they work using the WIP limits. It allows them to efficiently work. So in this case, you're seeing 2 designers working on 2 backlog items each, and then 1 backlog item is completed and has been pushed over to development. So like I said, this is pushed over to, but in reality, a true Kanban board will show a pull behavior. As soon as it's done, the developer pulls it and starts working on it. And then another backlog item that's done, developer pulls it and starts working on it. Now, as the third item is coming, what's the limit on the development phase? The limit is 2. So that's not allowed. You cannot have another one. So it goes back into the design domain. And a tester may come to the development team. So they are sitting idle. So they can help the developer develop the unit. And then the developer finishes a unit and goes back to picking up another item from the design phase, and they start working on it. So the 2 is maintained. This is just to give you an insight of how in Kanban board things move around. WIP limits ensure that there is a pull method being introduced. So at this point, we would like to conclude in our first session for this webinar that we discussed what the definition of Agile is in the beginning. So you should be able to understand, define what Agile is. You should be able to describe, you are able to describe the Agile Manifesto and relate to its 12 supporting principles. Also, you can explain the benefits from the principles supporting Agile Manifesto, how each principle ensures the benefits in software development, and at least 2 Agile frameworks. At least 2 Agile frameworks. So we discussed Scrum framework, we talked about XP methodology, and then Kanban. So, we covered more than 2. differentiate between the Agile framework and methodology. So again, what's a framework? Framework is actually much more descriptive, and while methodology provides practices that you can directly put into implementation. So framework gives you an overall structure that you can pick and choose as what's applicable to your environment. Uh, and compare the waterfall method from agile mindset. Again, we discussed that at length in the beginning, and how value is being perceived in waterfall method doesn't come out for a long time, and how the four values on the right in agile manifesto are playing a significant and paramount role in waterfall method, while agile mindsets focuses on giving higher value to the items on the left in agile manifesto. We also looked at and you can explain and discuss the benefits of agile software development as compared to the traditional approach, which is waterfall method or iterative, because iterative still goes from 3 to 6 months. In the next webinar, we shall be covering more characteristics of Scrum and XP practices and how they have helped various software development and other industries in achieving higher value to the customer.
Thank you, Jay. This is helpful. We just had part one in the three-part series of Agile transformations. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Actually, if you are still looking for the information how to get the PDUs and SEUs, Kim, do you want to explain them, just the steps? Okay, so basically you go to the CCRS system URL for the webinar that's been identified here, and you give the provider name Agile Sync, so that's the organization. Title is part one of Agile Transformation three-part series. Description is three-part series webinars on Agile Transformation part one. Today's date, and that it was completed today as well. The URL is agileince.com. I'm the presenter today, the contact person Jay Singhal, and the phone number for AgileTransformation is 240-552-6535, and email is trainings@agileince.com. So you can claim the PDU for PMP and PMISP credentials, and there is one PDU for strategy. So total PDUs you can claim is one, and then submit it. If you have any further questions, you can contact Kim by writing to trainings@agileince.com, or contact her at 240-552-6535. For Scrum Alliance, use our provider information. So our provider information has sufficient details to be able to claim one SEU for this webinar. Thanks everyone for attending, and have a great day. Bye.